Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about SpaceX Boca Chica update. So let's dive right into it. Now, first thing we have to understand the biggest news of the century, FAA approval. Now, that happened. What does that actually mean? That simply means FAA finished environmental review. What does that actually mean? Simply means FAA sat down, read the basically proposal from SpaceX, and they were like, okay, we're going to consult every Tom, Dick and Harry who is responsible for this related to be it wildlife, be it fishery, be it Army Corps of Engineers, whatever, every Tom, Dick and Harry association that is attached to this piece of land and is responsible for it in one way, shape or form, we're going to study all of it, all of their analysis, all of their criticism, all of their requirements, everything. They did that and they have given the green light. That's good. However, be mindful because it was a submission. There is some requirement. Basically, you have to be clear about it. You cannot be vague. You cannot be like, oh, I want to launch 100 rockets from that. Then again, your specification will be studied based on that. If you send itself as a request as in like, 8, they might be like, you know what, you want it, we get it, but I think you can only do 5 here. That could also happen. So you have to be mindful. It is very limited kind of documentation because if you say 1 rocket launch, that's not big of a deal. But if you say 10,000 launch, that's a very big deal. So that's why there is some serious limitation here. Same happens for airport also. So requested capacity, basically what SpaceX asked, there should not be any significant harm to the area that SpaceX is leasing, and they have to take some serious expensive steps to mitigate some disasters that could happen and to protect local species. Be mindful, there are some seriously endangered species in this area and they have to be very mindful of that, and they must stay within the requested limit, otherwise this whole review can be poofed out of existence. And be mindful, this is just an environmental review. That means they are now greenlit for applying for launch license. If you don't have the FAA approval, you can't even apply for license. So this was step A, and this was the biggest step. Other steps are kind of easy because again, SpaceX have already taken care of that. Now, what are these limits that we are talking about? We are talking about some serious limit. That simply means they cannot just go YOLO as much as they want to. If they are like, you know what, we think we can learn more about, our rocket if we crash it 5 to 10 times, they're like, nah, we have a limit. We have to be mindful of that. We have to learn as much as we can from few limited launches that we can do. So there are some serious rules. For example, the current documentation is around 5 orbital launches and 5 suborbital per year. So grand total of 10 times engines can go whoosh and they can go really far up. And the road closures that they've had, because this is a private place, not a private place, this is a publicly owned place, they have to be very mindful of how many times they are closing it. So that's around 500 hours of road closure, and 300 hours is emergency for, meaning when this happens, inevitably sooner or later this is going to happen, the cleanup requirement, the delay, the booms and all that jazz, they will take care of it. That's so basically you should not exceed that 500 hour, and if something boom happens, then you will start to eat away the time in that 300 hours. And if you have consumed all those time, yeah, then you can, if you are lucky, you will only get fined. If you are unlucky, you can lose your license. So that is significant. And in terms of biological life, this is the extensive part, meaning there is 545-page documentation on biological options. So you have to opinion basically. So they have to be very mindful of how they are handling that area to safeguard endangered species. There are way too many endangered species, like a surprisingly large amount of endangered species there. So there are some serious limits here. So there have been some significant downgrade compared to Elon Musk's earlier aspirations. Now, first downgrade is there is no longer a desalination plant. Now, that does make sense simply because trucking water is expensive, but it's not that expensive if you're not launching hundreds of rockets in a year, or even 50 rockets in a year, or even like, if your launch cadence is low enough, trucking water is effective enough, because a desalination plant only makes sense if you are running it 24/7, consuming the water. If you're not consuming the water, it's a hassle. Basically, it's a loss in your revenue. So that is gone, because again they barely have to do 10 launches. They can manage it with trucks. No on-site LNG refinement plant. Now this is an upgrade from the engineering department of the Raptor division, because LNG, while it does go through some rigorous filtration when it is extracted from the ground and then liquefied, even with all that, there is some impurities, specifically with heavier molecules, meaning you have methane, ethane, those sort of things can be there. Some heavier molecules would be there to contaminate it. So what LNG refinement plant does is like take that majority methane, make sure it's only methane. Basically, how we have kerosene from a crude oil power plant, and then we take the kerosene, refine the hell out of it, then it makes RP1, not RP1, JP1, jet propellant one. Then we refine the hell out of JP1, then we get RP1 that is used in rockets. Same thing here. Now they realize the LNG is clean enough to a point, even with some contamination that it has, which is very minute. Be mindful, it's like very minute contamination. It is more than good enough. An engine can directly digest it. So how about we just throw that part away? Because every step you remove from the supply chain and the pipeline, it makes your cost effective, and that cost effective part is very crucial if you do not want to just like one launch today. No, if you want to one launch go, two launch go, three launch go, five launch go, then saving every single penny in throughout the pipe chain matters a lot. So thankfully the Raptor 2 is far more capable of digesting LNG directly, which is more or less same. And that's why like there are even some new startups that are like, they're using LNG directly. That's why it's more or less 100% methane, so it can work. So that plant is also kicked out. Again, reduces the impact on the land, makes the FAA approval a bit easier. Then you have on-site power plant. That's also a no-go. Again, if they're not consuming too much power because they are not launching too many things, they can manage. They're like on-site solar and some power wires that should be able to take care of them. So basically these are very realistic goals. They were like YOLO in the beginning. Now they are like, they have landed, the eagle have landed, and this creates a very serious issue. This makes Florida very important, meaning this puppy has to go full scale, full on Starbase GG and very quickly. Otherwise, flat out, to give you a context of that, let's say they did the launch, let's say it went absolutely spectacular, and they're like, well, let's try to do refueling test. They can't. Refueling will test more than 5 launches, and they're only of a schedule for 5 launches in a year. So they have to use this. Here you can get more licenses, launch licenses, so to say. So there have been some significant downgrade. So what about Florida? Well, Florida, basically the Kennedy Space Center must have a Starbase. From SpaceX point of view, they must build a complete, fully functional, operational Starbase right there. However, there are some good news there. All infrastructure and permits are already there. That's good. That's GG. And NASA is not okay with it. I was like, wait a minute, why the heck NASA has issue? Well, reality is Starship has what we classify as in industry has boom potential, meaning it can go boom. So this boom potential is very significant because be mindful, while Saturn V is big, this puppy is even bigger because this boom potential happened with a small amount of propellants. What will happen if you have fully fueled stage 2 and booster with fully fueled? That boom potential would be very significant, and pad 39A is too goddamn close to it. So that gets an issue when if that rocket goes fully boom, like it goes YOLO on it, the damage to pad 39A could be very serious. And why 39A is so significant? First, from a historical point of view, it launched basically Saturn V. So flat out right there, it's like, bro, thou shall not scratch this puppy. And it also launched Space Shuttle. And from a practical point of view, this is the only link that USA has at this point in time to send astronaut to ISS, because this is the only launch pad qualified, certified, and clarified for Dragon 2. Dragon capsule basically. So what can SpaceX do? SpaceX, first thing they have to do, they have to build a backup pad for Dragon. That has other benefits also, because in some scenario something bad does happen, even rocket on the stand itself happens, you do not want to be like stranded on Earth. So that is something SpaceX did. Again, expensive. And another thing is they have to reinforce 39A, so even if rocket goes boom, this puppy should survive the big boom. It should be like, that's a minor scratch, I can deal with it. So that's the requirement from NASA's side of view. And it does kind of make sense. It's like, this minor boom, it was like powerful enough, and you want to put even a bigger brother of this puppy next to something very sensitive and very historic. It does make sense. It does make sense. So what we can expect in the future? Well, SpaceX is now going slow and steady. That's why there has not been too many Twitter rants, not too many grandiose timelines, and people are kind of accepting it. It's like even Elon Musk may be accepting it. It's like Elon timeline is not happening. Duh. So it's one of those things that people understand it over time. It's like, yeah, that's not happening. But they have gained a lot of real world experience. Now think of it this way. This is the true genius of Elon Musk, that he understands the fact that Starship, that's a children's toy. That's like build it and throw it away. Don't even give a damn about it. What's expensive then? What's the big deal? Big deal is making the factory that makes this puppy one a day. That's their target point. So how do you do that? You don't. You cannot achieve that on day one. So what you do it good enough. Then you learn from that good enough. Then you make it again. Then you become a bit better. Then you throw it away. Then you make it another time, third time. That's how you keep iterating. That was one of the most amazing thing about Iron Man 1 movie. You can see that when he makes the Mark 1, he takes the Mark 1, dustbins it. Then he makes Mark 2. Mark 3, throws it all away, Mark 3. That's how it's done in engineering if you really want to improve, because what you gain from Mark 1 is not the thing, the Mark 1 thing is not useful to you. The knowledge you gain from Mark 1 is that's far more, that's gold. So SpaceX builds a giant tower, a huge tower, and they took a lot of time, a lot of money, and they're like, we have to do this again and again and again. Here's the deal. They built it, and now they are building the same thing in Florida. Here's the deal. They learned. What their attempt was is, well, we're gonna put the scaffolding, basically the main frame, and then we're gonna do all the piping, stairworks, everything. And after building this, they realized, hey, wait a minute. Our cranes are capable of, if we have fully loaded each of the stages, meaning each stage have ladder, electrical work, piping, everything that it needs to have. If everything is already there, can our crane lift it? The answer is yes. Crane has more than enough safety margin. So what if we do it? Benefit, it takes a little bit of prep work, but it simplifies. Once you start to stack them, all you have to do is connect the joints. Done. Go home. Sweet dreams. So that saves so much time. So basically, this puppy could take 6 months, this will take 4 months. That's the whole point. That's what they are learning. It's like, instead of like, just like, repeating the same thing again and again, which majority of the government organizations do. They're like, we did it. What we can learn from it? Hey, we can just like, do majority of the things while it is a complete module on the ground. Super easy, super cost effective. We can do it. Do it. Then we just stack it on top of each other. Then just connects the joint and you're good. So you can see that second time they are doing it, they are being far more cost effective, and they are doing far more time efficiently. And compare that to NASA. NASA is never had the balls to throw things away, whereas like they had the Constellation project. This launch tower is from Constellation project. They did not do that. Consequence, they had to redesign this puppy on this puppy while this puppy is there. It's like, what the hell? And the outcome, yeah, it has 10,000 defects. Again, it was like its Constellation was a much lighter rocket. SL is idiotically heavier, so of course you have to design it. But here's the deal: this all thing has to shift on top of crawler. So crawler also has a upper limit, so you cannot just make it as heavy as you want to. So that overweight issue happened, and that's all on Mark 1. And they are like, okay, we have to build Mark 2, and there is now investigation. It's like, dude, Mark 2 is supposed to be built for $300 million. You have already awarded like hundreds of more than that, and your expected cost is around almost touching $1 billion, and you are behind schedule. What the hell is going on? And that's why I compared the launch tower here. Like, they throw it away. They build it from scratch, then they throw it away. Then they build it again. Far more efficient, far more. Again, if they had thrown this away, when they are like, carrying forward the Constellation project, they are like, hey, we tried Constellation project, government cancelled it, no problem. We're going to start fresh. They would not have made such a bad mistake. And again, because they are not learning, they are not growing, they're just doing the same mistake again, and again. And that's why I wanted to highlight this part. Like, launch tower, it's expensive equipment. It's like, this puppy is costing around $1 billion. And imagine SpaceX is like, yeah, we can do something better than this in like, 100 million. Let's say 200 million, just so you do not feel too bad about it. So that's the reality of it. That's the business mindset that is really smart about Elon Musk. He's like, we built it, let's throw it away. Let's build it even better. He's going to throw it away. The third time he's going to build it, it will be super quick. So that's the, real intelligence behind Elon Musk. So this is things gonna happen in the future. So this was my presentation on Boca Chica update. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.